A lot of people are freaking out right now on new reports from David Schwartz that Ripple is considering rewriting the XRP ledger. In this video, I want to talk about exactly what this means for the XRP you hold and why people are so worried about this. I also want to talk about the current price action. There are some very interesting support levels we're hitting right now. I want to talk about everything you need to know about the current dip and what I think about the situation. Like always, you're supporting me so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like these videos and subscribe to the channel. These two simple things really do help me out so much. Also, if you ever need a place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange uphold down in the description of this video. With that said, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. I'm going to start out this video and talk about the news that everyone is talking about, which is new reports that Ripple is considering adding a new language to the XRP ledger. Now, when this first came out, there's a lot of people reporting this involved Ripple rewriting certain parts of the XRP ledger, and David Schwartz even talked about in this clip what he would have done if he had the opportunity to restart and redo the XRP ledger. Now, a lot of people saw this and are thinking that Ripple is going to change the XRP ledger, go to a new XRP ledger, make a new XRP. Guys, you're going to continue to see a lot of different upgrades and changes to the XRP ledger through time. And in my opinion, this is one of the most beneficial things about the XRP ledger. The XRP ledger that was created 13 years ago is not going to be the XRP ledger we have in 25 years from now. These things are going to constantly change. And in fact, the XRP ledger in 20 years from now will probably be unrecognizable to the XRP ledger we have today. It's one of the biggest advantages of the XRP ledger. It's the simple fact that this thing can constantly be updated, constantly be made more powerful, and have new capabilities added to it that were not possible before in the past. These are really big benefits of the XRP ledger. And one of the most important things for how the XRP ledger is only going to get more powerful and succeed in the future. There's a lot of different things being talked about for the XRP ledger, things like scaling TPS, things like making it quantum resistant. All of these things are going to present challenges and make the XRP ledger more powerful into the future. And one of the things being considered right now is rewriting certain parts of the code base in a more user-friendly and more comprehensive coding language. Now, I'm not going to get into the specifics of how Rust is different from how the XRP ledger is currently written. Honestly, I just don't know enough to even talk about that. But the fact of the matter is through all of these changes, it is never going to make sense to have a new XRP or a new XRP ledger. The reason for that is because the XRP ledger, its biggest advantage and the biggest advantage of any blockchain is the liquidity it's already built up and the current network effect. These are things that can't be sacrificed. Take a look at how long it's taken for the XRP ledger to bring in the amount of liquidity and the amount of activity it has garnered to date. Restarting that would be completely detrimental to any project moving forward, let alone the XRP ledger. It doesn't make any sense for Ripple to abandon all the progress they've made so far. They're just going to continue on and keep updating the current XRP ledger. This is a huge advantage that this technology can be updated and upgraded over time. But through all of these updates and all of these upgrades, you are going to continue to see people misunderstand how these things work and spread FUD about there possibly being a new XRP. A lot of people even talked about Ripple possibly moving over and abandoning the XRP ledger and starting a new chain. None of these things make any sense when you actually think about it. Ripple has spent 13 years getting the XRP ledger to where it is today. For them to randomly decide to restart on a whim or start up using a new ledger, none of these things make any sense. It would be totally incomprehensible on why anyone would choose to do this. Ultimately, it would fall on its face and fail. They would never be able to recreate what's already been created. And I just want to make this abundantly clear because there are going to continue to be upgrades to the XRP ledger. There will continue to be people FUD and say, oh, well, the XRP ledger, Ripple could just make a new one tomorrow and then just abandon the current XRP. These things are totally nonsensical. And it's true for Bitcoin, it's true for Ethereum, it's true for all these different things. You'll never have the ability to just abandon something, recreate a new one, and then everyone's just going to say, okay, this is the new one. These things don't make any sense, and they would never be feasible to essentially push forward based off of where this environment has already gotten to. It would be like completely trying to restart the internet. It doesn't make any sense. It's just a FUD piece, and it comes from people who have a lack of understanding of the real importance of the network effect and the liquidity that has already been created throughout these chains. So just want to make that abundantly clear. There's going to be a lot of new things coming, but none of these things are going to make it so there's a new XRP ledger that Ripple's using rather than your XRP. The XRP ledger is going to continue to be the XRP ledger for a long time into the foreseeable future. I'm talking decades into centuries. With that said, though, I want to talk about the current sell-off because obviously XRP is going down right now along with the rest of the cryptocurrency market. One thing I quickly wanted to share off the start is XRP is entering a very, very deep liquidity region where I do anticipate a lot of buy volume coming in. One of the problems with XRP going to higher and higher prices and into price discovery is you lose a lot of that volume, right? So that way, when the market goes into these big liquidation periods, you don't have a lot of high volume at purchasing XRP at $4 to $5. But once you get into these lower prices, you have deep, deep liquidity with buy orders where people are essentially going to start eating up the price. So there's no telling how deep this sell-off is going to go. Honestly, I would be shocked if it really extended much more than it already has. But the more important thing to realize is like, this isn't really any different from things that we've continually seen in the past. And that's the most important thing to take away from this. This is just what the cryptocurrency market does. I made this short little chart for you and just highlighted some periods in the past just to give you a good idea. What we have seen over the past just year alone is there has been so many different opportunities like this, right? Where people have been freaking out, where there's been shakeouts, where the market's dipped. And throughout all those different time periods, the market always recovers. It always goes higher because at the end of the day, the fundamentals are developing at an exponential rate that is making XRP vastly more valuable. I talked about this on the show last night, but I always like to think about it as almost like filling up a beer. When you fill up a beer, you get the foam at the top, and sometimes it overflows, and sometimes you put too much, and then some falls out. But ultimately, the direction is that at the end of the day, the cup has more beer in it. And I think that's very similar to what we see in the XRP ledger specifically. When the market gets really overblown, there's a huge 80% candle in a week, you get a lot of foam at the top of that move. And ultimately, the foam needs to die down. Some people need to be shaken out. You need some of that over exuberance to come out of the market before the market can recapture itself. Organic volume starts coming back in, and those buy orders start swinging back into place. A lot of people are wondering, is this to top the market or anything like that? Guys, I don't really think we're going to continue to see the normal 4-year cycle we have experienced in the past. If we take a look at the XRP ledger on an inverse chart, which I find fascinating, and I think this is cool to look at because it kind of just gets rid of your bias of XRP going up. This chart looks like it's about to fall off a cliff, right? This looks like XRP is about to make a huge move to the downside, and this is just the XRP chart flipped upside down, so this is really XRP going to the upside. But I think it's kind of interesting to look at the chart like this because it gets rid of your bias of saying, oh, well, I hold a lot of XRP, so I just want to see it go up, and this chart looks bullish. But looking at this chart right here, it just looks like XRP is about to fall off a cliff, make a huge move to the downside, which of course, because this chart is upside down, is XRP actually appreciating. And just to make this very clear for anyone who might be confused, if XRP made its next move like this, right, to the downside, this move right here alone would put you at about a $20 XRP. So XRP is one of the most interesting charts, I think, in all of crypto. It has these super, super high volatility moves where the XRP price moves thousands and thousands of percent at a single time. And one of the downsides of that is, of course, you have pretty violent retracements to the other end. And I just think those things have to be expected, right? You shouldn't be seeing a move like we're seeing right now and be like, oh, why is this happening? Is this the top of the market? It's just normal activity. One of the things that I really want to make clear is if you take a look at XRP on just a shorter time frame, and we just really take a look at what's going on in comparison to the last couple of weeks, we can see that right now XRP is still sitting in a position where since 2 weeks ago, right, or since the early part of July, XRP is still up 33%. So this is a short-term move. XRP is going to continue to do this. And then out of nowhere, randomly, just like the sell-off came in, we're going to see a rebound and we're going to start pushing back to the upside. It's just how these charts move. So it's very important not to get too sucked into these things. You always need to be zoomed out, looking at the daily, looking at the weekly candles, and not getting too sucked into any individual move happening on the shorter time frames. A lot of what we see on these shorter time frames is a lot of trading activity, a lot of short-term speculation, a lot of over exuberance, a lot of over panic. But over the long run, those things get straightened out. We just look at where XRPs come from since 2024. We were talking about a 30 to 40 cent XRP. Now we're looking at a $3 to $2.80 XRP. And I'm sure in a year to 2 years from now, we're going to be looking back at these prices and thinking, oh, it was so silly to be worrying about the current movements. It's always harder when you're looking at the market from a shorter term perspective and you're taking a look at, oh, well, I just bought XRP today and now it's 20% lower. Now it's 30% lower, even 50% lower. Those kinds of moves seem like they are a really big deal, right? I remember when XRP was trading at 25 cents and it went down to 11 cents. It was like, oh, that was a huge move. But now I could care less if the XRP was 25 cents or 11 cents, right? All of those seem like great places to purchase XRP. So you just need to make sure you're not getting shaken too much into the short-term stuff. That's why on this channel, I always try to focus on the long-term fundamentals. Ultimately, the more powerful the XRP ledger gets, the better its network effect will be, the more institutions it will be incorporated in, causing inflows into the XRP ledger and into XRP that make all this short-term price move and volatility seem like absolutely nothing. It's a blip on the radar. It's something that you don't even need to pay attention to. We're so early into this technology that paying too much attention to this stuff really just makes you miss the bigger picture. And if you just zoom out and understand where this is headed, and you're just focused more on the actual adoption of the technology and XRP itself, then none of these things really matter. Because ultimately, the market's not digesting the actual fundamental news that's going to matter. And if the XRP ledger is successful, like I talked about earlier, we're going to be looking back at these prices and saying, oh, there's virtually no difference between a $3.80 XRP and a $2.80 XRP. What's the difference? Now it's this exponentially higher price. I could care less if I was buying at either of those prices. They were both amazing. So just trying to think about it that way. At the end of the day, when the market gets like this, it's really out of anyone's control. Ultimately, the fundamentals always take back over, and I'm sure we'll see a reversal on this fairly soon. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this update, and for now, Mickle out.